Hello and welcome to the vlog. At the time of recording this, there are just 6 weeks to go until I set off on my grand 3-month-long spring cruise. And I hadn't realised quite how close it was until I glanced at my calendar this morning, and 6 weeks will fly by. Before you know it, I will be off and cruising. So I've started doing a bit of a stock take on the boat, making sure I've got all the things that I think I've got aboard and anything that I might need, and doing a bit of spring cleaning and tidying out and going through the lockers and the cupboards and just seeing what I've got. And I thought maybe I could do a video about what's in the lockers, and for this I'm taking inspiration from Ray over on Love Your RV, who recently did a video looking at all the tools he keeps in the back of his pickup truck, and he just went over them with the camcorder and said, I have this one for this reason and this one for that reason. I thought, right, well, if I'm looking through my lockers, I can do a similar sort of thing with what have I got in my well deck. Now, it's not so much tools really, it's kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, there's some tools, but the rest of it is just miscellaneous stuff, some of which I brought aboard and some of which was already on the boat and I've never thrown out, on the basis that I don't know whether I will ever need it or not, so I've kept it. It's in there, it's not taking up any unnecessary space. So, to cut a long story short, this is the first of at least 2 vlogs looking through the well deck lockers. I'll do one today and one in the next vlog, otherwise it will just be far too long a video. So, without any further ado, let's get cracking. Let's start on the port side then. I do normally keep around here the water hose, but obviously I've cleared the decks for the purposes of this video. We'll take this deck board up and peer inside. There is a lot here. I'll try and zip through it as quickly as possible, starting over here on the left where I have a simple tool kit. It's just screwdrivers. There is a powered screwdriver thing which you can plug these ends into, but by and large it's just a collection of screwdrivers, and that sits nicely down here. Incidentally, just under here, poking out under the gunnels, is the original boat horn, which I've now rewired after denting the one that was on the front of the boat, you may remember from a few months ago. Next thing along is bits to do with painting. So I've got a, actually that's a tiling sponge. Very good, this tiling sponge. Not used it on the boat, but I used it in a house and it's very good. And sandpaper of all sorts of grades. And this obviously is one of those paint roller, what do you call these things? Paint roller things that you put the paint in. And oh dear, this really is a mess of things. There's a mask for when I'm doing any sanding. This is quite a good one actually, and then I've got a cheaper, slightly less good one there. And there's a bit of the paint roller. That's a scrapey thing for scraping water off when you've washed the car. I don't know why I have that on the boat, but I do. What's in here? This is going to be as much a voyage of discovery for me as it is for you. Oh, that's just more sandpaper. And then I've got some methylated spirits, a sanding block, some hammerite black, some hammerite white, some hammerite silver, some, oh, this must be so old, rust buster. I think this came with the boat and it looks pretty old to start with. I don't know if the chemicals in that keep for years to come. Right, sanding kit, yeah, meths. There's a saw. How rusty is that? Oh, that is quite rusty. That's a shame, isn't it? Still, it's in one piece just about, but it is quite rusty. Then there's one of those squeezy things you put sealant into. I've got several of those. They're the kind of thing you end up accumulating. Another little mini sand thing that you wrap sandpaper around. Paint brushes. What's in here? Oh, look at this. I wondered what had happened to all those screwdrivers. Crikey, all this time I've been wondering where they are. Now I know. Wow. Yeah, miscellaneous screwdrivers and paint brushes. This was a very useful exercise. If I could shut that again, it'd be even better. Come on. Ugh, there we go. And there's also a couple of drills down there. Oh, look at that. That's a kitchen implement, a spatula, but I used it for doing polyfiller and things. And over the years, it's become a bit, well, you wouldn't want to stir your dinner with it. Let's put it like that. Okay, nothing too exciting. Down here, some gloves, some masking tape. Some of this stuff came with the boat, and some of it I've added. And there's obviously been a water leak in here at some point, because anything that was metal at the bottom has left a little rusty stain, which is annoying. But these things happen, so let's not get too stressed about it. Okay. Right, pressing on then. Hold on, that ruler is supposed to sit in there. I've got here an empty can for petrol. I don't have a generator on the boat, but I did borrow the one at Yelvertoft when I was doing some sanding on the boat, and I needed to top it up with petrol, so I bought this officially sanctioned proper petrol carrier thing. And one day it'll come in useful again, I expect. Here I have a brush, bristly brush for clearing out the stove chimney. As you can see, I've had to bend the wire into two parts to get it into the cupboards, but never mind, it unbends again when the need arises. There's a brush which clicks onto my hose so that I can wash the outside of the boat using a brush, and I think you can stick soap sticks down the end of that, and then it squirts out water and soap in combination. There's another bit of the hose accessories there, and spray nozzle with different patterns. This is all from the car. I used to use these things for washing the car, but I brought them on board the boat, obviously for doing boaty stuff. What on earth is this? This one goes back under both. I may have to wait till I get the other thing up. A little mini painting roller thing. That should be there, really. And under here, there's some foam sleeves for the roller painting. I told you this was going to be exciting. Big thing of, it looks like a giant carrier bag, but it's plastic sheeting for covering things in plastic when you need to do that. And in here, I think this is wires, TV cables. Yep, this is TV cables and extension TV cables that I don't use anymore. That's a little shovel for coal. I think it's a sort of coal and muck shoveling thing. A stick. Who doesn't need a good stick for stirring paint? And that's exactly what those have been used for. And that's almost it for this side. There's a whole box of bolty things. There's probably a technical term of them. Shackles? Probably shackles, isn't it? Bolty things. And I have no use for any of them, but they were all here on the boat, so I kept them just in case one day I have a use. Now, this must have more of the same, I imagine. Also, quite a lot of dirt on it. Hold on, I'm just going to tip this over the edge. There we go. Right, what have we got here? Plumbing bits. Oh my, look at this. Loads of this twist-on assorted plumbing things. Should I ever get it into my head to go mad and do plumbing myself, which would be a terrible idea, because water would just spew everywhere if I did it. But anyway, plumbing bits. I've got an empty one of those, which I just keep under there. You never know when you're going to need one again to put things in. And then under here, another really old tool set. They're all going to fall out of this, aren't they? I have a feeling. There we go. It's one of those socket sets with all the sockets not in their right places, so that you have to go through them all to find the one you want. But at least I've got it, so that's good. Right, what else? More hose bits. You know, attachments for the hose. There's a on-off tap thing there. Oh, and that's my gas bottle wrench. Wrench, is that the word? Spanner. It's a particular size, a rather rusty particular size, that you use for getting the nuts on the gas bottles. And that is for opening up the water tank, except I have a plastic one that I use, so that just sits in here. Right, that can all go back in there, I think, now, can't it? And that other little thing I pulled out is a thing of fire cement which went round the join between the stove and the flue, just to keep it properly airtight and stop any fumes coming into the boat. Right, I'm going to reassemble all this and then we'll move on to the next bit. Over here at the front I like to keep a mooring pin, mooring chain and a mooring nappy pin, so I've got one of each type in the front of the boat so that all eventualities are covered when mooring up. What we have here, let's start with this. This is an electricity meter, an inline meter. You hold on, it's going to be a bit stiff. Oh my word, there we go. So it's got the normal 3-pin socket there and the 3-pin plug there and the 3-pin socket there, and you just plug it in line with your shoreline, and then as you can see there's a meter here and it just measures in kilowatts. And I had to buy this, got it second hand off eBay, because the place where I was moored up for winter, not Yelvertoft has meters in the electrical stanchions, but where I've been this past winter didn't originally have meters on the stanchions, so you had to buy one of these so you could be metered properly. They have now added metered stanchions, so I don't need that anymore. I don't know whether to sell that or keep it. It's the kind of thing that if I sell it, I will find myself somewhere that I need one for again. So there we go. That is the old hose, which is not quite as long as the boat, and therefore sometimes when you'd moor up to a water point, you'd find the water point was at the back of the boat, but the water filling hole is here in the front of the boat, and the hose wasn't quite long enough. So that was a bit ridiculous, and I had a few not amusing instances where I ended up running up and down the bank, trying to pull the boat a bit closer, messing about. In the end, I bought a new hose, which made life a lot easier, but the old one I keep just in case. I've also got under here, that's just a standard mains cable with the 2 sockets on the end, comes in handy every now and again. Ah, the thing I couldn't get out earlier is a brush, and yeah, it doesn't obviously get much use because I'd forgotten what it was. I've got an electrical sander here, flat sander thing, Black & Decker, does the job I suppose. Underneath that, what's that? Something blue. Oh, it's just a bit of spare hose that the previous owners left in there and I've never got rid of. Got some old plastic cups which I use for washing paintbrushes in. Speaking of which, one rather manky paintbrush. That is the old bilge pump, which I kept because it does actually work. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's a sort of spare pump. I've made a note. Works fine. Replaced April 2016. So there was a video where I explained why I replaced the old bilge pump. It was to do with a non-return valve. Long story, rather dull. Anyway, kept the old pump, so that means I've got a spare one. Just need to wire that up to some pipes and 12 volts and it will pump water or whatever. And then this is another little collection of, actually this is all the original light bulbs that I took out when I replaced them with LED ones. Got a knife there, and then a miscellaneous collection of yet more tools, wire strippers, pliers. You can see I've wrapped tape around some of these so as to insulate myself from them. That probably means this is the right size for some of the battery terminals, because if I've bothered to insulate it, it's to stop me electrocuting myself. Not electrocuting myself, but you know, shorting out the terminals. Although if I was going to do that, I ought to have done it across the whole length of the thing. Anyway, moving swiftly on, and there you go. Got spanners and pliers and things in there. Let's put that over here. And then the final thing I've got under here, I won't bring it out, is a little hand suction pump. You squeeze that and it siphons stuff up from the pipe below it and siphons overboard. And then final thing in here, a bit of old rope. Not a very long length of rope, but I just keep things like that because I've got space for them, and if you throw them away you'll find a use for them. But I suppose I really want to have a big clear out at some point. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that is the port locker. As I mentioned at the start, I will do the starboard locker in the next vlog, and then I'm sort of hoping I might be able to squeeze a third video out of this series as well, in no small part so that I can do a really bad pun on the video title. But that's it for this one. Any questions, drop them down below, and thanks for watching. Cheers now, bye bye.